Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, the Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. And on this episode, we review To the Victors, So Much for Nothing, and Shifting Sands. So let's get started. As usual, we need to thank the audience.
You know what's funny, Jeffrey, is that when we first started doing this podcast, that wasn't something that we actually did for a little first.
We didn't have an audience.
Well, I know, but we got an audience pretty quick because we pushed so hard. I just think it's funny that you added that in there into your script every time, even though it wasn't originally part of the plan. So,
yeah.
Why don't we stick to the script today, Jeffrey?
Fuck the audience.
Yeah.
Fuck
You get nothing. No thanks this time. Fuck you.
You lose. Good day, sir. Oh Lord. Well, had a bit of a rough night. Well, fun night. Rough after effects, I guess you could say. But we are here to bring you this podcast. Do you want to... don't forget, folks, to go to our social media platforms and our YouTube page and subscribe, please. By the time this episode releases, maybe we'll have another video out, right, George?
Yeah, there's going to be a little theory video that a friend of the podcast has helped to cook up there. So that'll probably be out before this comes out, actually. So go check that out on the YouTube page.
There you go. Harrison, do you want to add anything else before I move on?
No.
That's a niet from Harrison. All right, so we'll go straight into the first chapter read through, which is To the Victors, ellipsis. We are looking at this from the perspective of Shivers, and our boy is in the midst of he's getting some cheeks. He's clapping cheeks. Mm-hmm.
He is. I like how he reminisces because Black Dad, I think, even said this too. Nothing. Yeah. Even inside the original trilogy, there's nothing better than a battle, and then after the battle, getting fucked.
or doing the fucking.
Well, I mean, you could do both.
You could do both. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing you're a bottom.
Oh my god.
So apparently he had walked into his bedroom at the palace of Duke Rogat, and Manza is there on the bed, waiting for him, rocking her hips. At least, that's what we see, because she asks him, "What kept you?" And then he goes, I don't really know. So they start going at it, right? And then it shifts back. Then it shifts over to Manza's perspective, and she's
putting in the work. Let's just say
she's putting in the work. She was sucking that cat. she was on top, and like Harrison likes to be on bottom, and she was
from Manza I would be. Jesus, you shitting
exactly.
me?
Yeah. And basically we get the shifting perspectives back and forth about them just raw dogging it like animals.
Jeffrey, you don't want to go into detail? Normally you do.
Not today. I'm good.
These are some of the most longest and most detailed sex scenes that we get from Joe Abercrombie, and they're not as disturbing as they usually are. They're just kind of a bit confusing, especially when it comes to the perspectives here.
Yeah. Because we think. We'll get to it.
We think they're bagging each other.
Yeah, if you're a first time reader, you're like, oh, look at this. They're back. They've reconciled. They are now bumping uglies. And then at one point, after they get to completion, they climax. He goes, "So this is what victory feels like. If I'd known, I'd have taken some gambles sooner." Odd. And then Manza goes, "No, you wouldn't. You're the Duke of Delay. Remember?"
Dun, dun, dun. And if you listen to the audiobook, you'd be able to tell pretty quickly.
Yeah, I imagine.
PC.
The voices match up to who they really are.
Yeah.
Okay,
which is cool too. Just like Pacey does it anytime he does a scene where you don't know what's going to happen. Well, you can't tell their perspective immediately. But I do like how it's he's trying to sneak it in, and then Pacey just ruins it.
Yeah, and well, yeah. So she was banging Rogan, and turns out Shivers was banging Carlotte Van Eyder. He was a little rough with her, grabbing her wrist, pretty rough right there, leaving him some marks. And he goes, I didn't mean to hurt you, but he was lying and didn't really, care to hide it. And then she goes, oh, I'm nothing like that delicate, and you can call me Carlotte. I was like, oh, whoa.
Yep, Carlotte's doing her. You get to. I mean, there's like no doubt that she's just like playing like a fiddle.
Yeah, but she's actually pretty honest with him too.
I mean, she is, but
only as honest as she needs to be.
I think she's she's so consistent with her characterization that she does basically the same thing she would have wanted to do with Glockner, which is try to manipulate him. But also, to do that, you have to be almost completely honest with those kind of characters.
Yeah, and Carlotte's always, she's said it before, she's never really been too much about looks. I mean, she's so hot that,
it doesn't matter.
Competent. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And we get to Monza's perspective, and, she's chilling with Rogan, and she's just kind of like coming to the realization that, she's almost completed. She's completing her revenge tour in a way. She never thought she could do it, beat Orso, that she actually might get, all of them. She thought she might get like 3 of them, maybe 4 on her original hit list before they got to her, but she didn't think she would live this long, and she's doing it. And we see the Duke is kind of looking at himself in the mirror. He's like, shutting some poses out.
He's doing the full Giselle number.
Yeah.
My God, look, this is a chin of a god.
He had like a scar now, like a scratch below his collarbone, and Monza goes, "Did you nick yourself on a nail file?" And then this is where he does that thing. Harrison, he goes, "A savage sword cut like this could have easily have been the death of a lesser man, I'll have you know. But I braved it without complaint and fought on like a tiger. Blood streaming, I say, down my armor."
And I love it. Go ahead, George.
I was going to, yeah. So in the audiobook, it's definitely played like he's doing it as a joke. He's taking the piss out of himself instead of being completely serious. And I think that might be a bit of an artistic liberty on the side of Stephen Pacey there. And it is kind of one way or the other where he is, is this the start of showing his really narcissistic side?
I think he's...
Or is he genuinely capable of, like, self-criticism?
I think that right now I think you're right. I think it's maybe a transitionary part. But he has shown to be fairly self-aware. He just thinks he's more than he is. And he thinks that he's more than he is. And right here, he's being dramatic to be funny. But he's also kind of being serious. Like those really annoying people where they say a joke like how good they are. But then whenever you call them out, they say, "I'm just joking." And they say it in a way that it could be perceived as a joke. But really, they're being serious at the same time. They're just saying it as a joke. That way, people don't get mad at them. And they think that they're, you know what I'm saying? It's irritating. I hate you, Rogan.
It is irritating. Rogan's just that guy from my office.
I love, but Monta's response is so great too. She's like, "Oh, I'm sure that you wear a shirt that has that cutout. That way you can display it to everyone."
Oh my god.
Oh well, yeah. So Rogan's being funny. Monza's being she kind of is insulting him. She can't bang somebody without insulting him. She needs to be a dom like that. And she jokes that because he talks about if things unfold according to his plan, and they have so far.
Yeah, right.
Apparently,
yeah, right.
Apparently, that he is going to be the king of Styria. He's already commissioned his crown. And Monza makes a comment that the crown will be cast from Gurkish gold, I bet. And then he goes, "Look, the world isn't as simple as you think. A great war rages." And she thinks he's talking about like the years of blood in Styria, but really what he's talking about is the Gurkish and the Union, or at least the forces that control them. The Church or Gurkul and the banks of the Union. Orso has the backing of the Union, so he must have his backers, which are, the Gurkish. Every man must kneel to somebody. And then she goes, perhaps you didn't notice I'm not a man. So that's foreshadowing. And he says, yeah, I noticed that. It's the second thing that attracted me to you. And she goes, what's the first? And he goes, well, you can help me unite Styria. She goes, what? Why? And he goes, the united Styria, she could be as great as the Union, as great as the Empire Gurkul, greater even. We can free herself from their struggle and stand alone. Interesting. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's kind of the evidence that Rogant, even though he's prideful and vain, he's not an idiot, and he's got a really good idea for the big picture and how to play people in terms of the overall. Mm-hmm. And I think that what he's wanting here to us is like, I don't know, it kind of gives you a different feeling when it comes to him. Like what he's desiring ultimately is not bad. It's just the fact that he wants to be at the top of it that makes it annoying. Like he knows what's going on, and he's not thinking. Well, in his mind, he's thinking, "I'll save Styria. I'll lead Styria," but it's all for his vainglory, not really for the greater good. I think that's where his vanity is his fault.
Yeah. And he says, he's talking about the plans, like, how he has to give some islands in the city of Borletta to Sartorius from Sapani. And she goes, what do the citizens of Borletta have to say about that? And she goes, look, whatever I tell them. Muris bowed to Sapani long ago, and Sapani now bows to me. In name, at least, the power of Viscerine is broken. And as for Massalia, Etria, and Capril, well, as of their power is broken as well. And then Westport, she asks him, and he goes, details. It's either part of the Union or of Kanta, depending on who you ask. No, it's Talons that concerns him now. Talons is the key in the lock. And she goes, you love to listen to your own voice, don't you? He goes, look, it talks a lot of sense. Orso's army is scattered, and with it, his power has vanished. He's always, gone first to the sword. Now he finds that his sword is broken, and he has no friends to help him out. But it's not enough to destroy him, that he's going to need somebody to replace him, somebody to guide the citizens of Talons into his gracious fold, into his welcoming arms. And she goes, oh, let me know when you find the person. And he goes, I already have. Somebody of skill, cunning, matchless resilience, and fearsome reputation. Someone loved in Talons far more than Orso himself. Someone he tried to kill, in fact, for stealing his throne.
Dun, dun, dun.
And she goes, look, I didn't want it then. I don't want it now. And he goes, but it's there for the taking, and what happens when you have your revenge? You deserve to be remembered. You deserve to shape the age. This is stuff that Bennett would have said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Monza knows this. And then he goes, besides, what better revenge could you have than making Orso's greatest fear come to pass? Now that, she's like, ooh, I like that. She likes that.
I find it interesting.
He's coming right at her.
I find it great, too, that she has this moment where she's like, oh, that's what Bennett would have said. And, she's sleeping with him.
I know.
She was like, you slightly remind me of my dead brother. Want to fuck?
Yeah. And then
then he actually does strike the right chord, doesn't he? And he's like, well, what better revenge could you have than making his worst fear to come to pass?
Yeah,
and she's like, exactly. Oh, yeah, no, that sounds good, actually. But I love how he tries everything. He goes through, like, flattery and then bargaining and then...
Yeah.
He's just such a clearly skilled manipulator.
Yeah.
And he ends it by saying, let me be honest, I need you. And then I like what Joe does. He reuses the last said sentence at the start of a new perspective or something. And so we go back to Shivers and Carla, and the first thing she says is, let me be honest, I need you. Now, she doesn't have a friend left in the whole wide circle of the world.
Aww.
Look, and it's hard making friends because she's the outsider, and it's hard to tell your friends from your enemies, and that strikes a chord with Shivers, right?
Yep.
And then she goes, "I dare say where you come from, loyalty is considered a noble quality." Yes, and maybe not. But down here in Styria, a man has to bend with the wind. Your friends and mine, General Mercado and Grand Duke Rogant, for example, I wonder what they're doing right now. She looks up at the ceiling, and he goes, "They're fucking." And then she goes, "Yeah, the snake of talons and the worm of Osprey all entwined together. The treacherous pair, Styria's greatest liar and Styria's greatest murderer. What comes when she has a revenge? Once Rogan has raised her up and dangled her like a child's toy, you know? What will you have a place when the years of blood are finally done? And he goes, "I don't have a place anywhere without a war. That much he's proved." And she goes, "Well, then I fear for you." He says, he jokes that he's grateful that she's watching his back. But she goes, "Look, you know how the Butcher Capril solves her problem, and Duke Rogant has scant regard for honest men." And then we go back to the other perspective, and he goes, Rogant says, "I have nothing but the highest regard for honest men." But fighting stripped to the waist, it's so cliche. You wouldn't catch me doing it. And then Manza goes, "What, fighting?" He goes, "How dare you, woman? I am Stolicus reborn." He goes, "You know what I mean. Your northern accomplice, the one with the eye." And she goes, "Oh boy, here we go. You jealous already?" And he goes, "Yeah, a little bit, but I'm also concerned about his jealousy with a man that's that prone to violence." And he makes a suggestion that maybe it's a time to lay him off. Mad dogs savage their owner more than their owner's enemies often enough. Yeah. And then she goes, "Oh yeah, and their owner's lovers first of all." And he goes, "Yes, we certainly would not want that." He seems firmly attached to you.
I do want to point out, from Rogon's point of view, this is a perfectly logical thing to do.
Yeah,
very much.
Just get rid of him. Whatever.
Also, I mean, it's really, I think it's really clever writing for Joe to have down, talking about how Rogant is like a liar and everything, and then right here you kind of think that, oh my god, he's like trying to manipulate her, but really he's just trying to be safe and make sure his assets are protected and doesn't want to take risks. He's not really trying to like manipulate her right now. He's just expressing like, hey, this is probably a good idea. And as we see Manza here, after he says that to her, she's like, no, I'm not gonna have him touched. She gets defensive. She says, "No, he saved my life. I owe him." And she also feels guilty, obviously, as she remembers like burning flesh in the eye and everything. And she's obviously,
"Should have been you.
Should have been you." So she's feeling guilty about that still. He still reminds her of Benner in a weird way. She's all messed up in that way, but she does not want to get rid of him. And so to have that happen, and that without jumping ahead too much, have the conversation about to happen with Carlette and Shivers, I think it's so clever to have like all these different personalities and motivations all clashing with each other, and then them all going in the opposite directions of where they're all wanting them to go. It's pretty. I think it's pretty clever. Like normally, these kinds of chapters are like, yeah, whatever. But I find it super fascinating to see how they all talk to each other and try to get them to do what each other wants, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and he persists, right? He goes, "Think about it. It's the safe thing to do. You must see that." And she goes, "Look, I'm warning you. Leave him be." And he goes, "Look, Monscaro, please understand. It's your safety." Like he's not letting up. And so she basically, how do I explain this? She basically takes his arm and like forces him down. Yeah. And then she goes,
gets him in a little lock there.
Yeah, and she goes, "Didn't you hear me say no? All right, if it's sudden, unexpected, and decisive force I want, I can manage it myself." Because he was mentioning like, he was basically implying like, we got to kill Shivers.
Like, I can do it for you.
Yeah, because like with unexpected force and everything. He goes, okay, I see that. He goes, "Maybe good. You don't bring him up again," and that's it. And he goes, "You didn't have to do that." And she looks down she goes, maybe I enjoy doing it. And she looks down and his cock was kind of like half hard. And he goes, I'm not sure. She goes, I'm not sure you didn't enjoy it either. And then we get to this. He goes, yeah, now that you mention it, I must confess I rather relish being looked down by a strong woman. And he goes, I don't suppose you could be persuaded to piss on me at all.
I like how Monza doesn't kink shame though. She's like, no, I'm good, bro.
Yeah, like I don't need to go. And he goes, well, how about you drink some water and then maybe, you know. And she goes, I think I'm just gonna stick to the pot. And he goes, such a waste.
The pot won't appreciate it.
Yeah, the pot
what the fuck?
And then she goes, once it's full, then you can do what you want with the pot. Then how about that? He goes, not at all the same thing.
I gotta say, the audiobook on this version of this is absolutely fantastic.
He's also like,
not at all the same thing.
Yeah. He's always like, the pot won't appreciate it. He's all like, please give it to me.
Yeah, so yeah, Rogon is a freak.
Yeah, he's
oh my god, don't kink shame George.
I'm not kink shaming.
I know.
He a freak in the sheets. Monza says a pretend Grand Duchess pissing on a would-be king. You couldn't make it up. Apparently you can. So we shift back to Shiver's perspective in Carlotte. She is, I guess she's dancing around the topic of and Shivers kind of just out and out says it. He goes, you want Mercado dead, you can just say it. He goes, oh, you're surprisingly blunt. And then he asks her, no, I'm as blunt as you expect. Why do you need her dead so bad? He's an idiot, but he's not that big of an idiot. He knows that she's not drawn to his pretty face nor his sense of humor. Maybe she wants revenge for Sapani, but that's just kind of that's got to be part of it. She goes, yeah, no small part. And she goes, look, as far as being drawn to you, I was always more interested in honest men than pretty faces. But I wonder, can I trust you? He goes, no. If you could, I wouldn't be suited to the task, which is true. And now he's kind of like had enough of like the dancing around. He kind of wants her to just like come out and say it. So he twists her arm and she goes, all right. Look, there's a man in the union, the man that I work for, the one who sent me to Styria in the first place to spy on Orso. And he remembers Vitari saying, the cripple. And so he was like, him? And she goes, yep, the guy that's behind the king of the union. She goes, yes, look. And then I like how, like we talked about, Joe kind of reuses or repeats a phrase or anything. She goes, you didn't have to do that. And then Shivers goes, maybe I enjoy doing it. So
well, the whole scene is mirrored.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And I do love that. I love the way that Joe.
Yeah.
And even though the facade is up, at the beginning it was more of like a deception, but the fact that it keeps that up throughout the whole chapter, I just think that's really clever writing.
And so basically when Mercado made Carlotte betray Orso, she actually made Carlotte betray the cripple as well. Now, Orso she can deal with as an enemy. She's fine. But not the cripple, not Glockta.
I wonder how much of it is too, like, it's very specific. Kill Monza. Why Monza? Like, that means that Glockta, whatever, probably when they heard about Monza, knew like, oh shit. I mean, it's pretty hard foresight to think Monza's a serious threat to Orso. Carlotte, if you don't fix this shit and take her out, it's gonna cause a lot of problems. If you want to get back in my good graces, you need to do that.
Yeah, because the plans, I guess, are to bring Talons into the Union,
or at least heavily aligned.
Yeah, and so basically, if she can find a way to kill Mercado, Carlotte gets her life back. And, Shivers goes, okay, so I'm your way to get your life back. And she asks him, and she says, could you do it? And he goes, look, I could have done it today, at some point during the battle, easily. But instead he saved her because maybe he was just hoping or something like that. But hoping had made a fool of him, and he's getting sick and tired of being the fool. He could do it, and he's thinking about it. He could do it easily. And then she's out and out just saying it, like, just do it.
Do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
For me, for you, for us. And then he, caution first, he needs to pick his moment, which is a callback to Morveer. Love that. And then, nothing done well is ever rushed. And then he goes, well, you know what? Maybe she owes me money. He goes, well, I used to be a merchant, buying, selling. When people talk prices, the deal is already done. Very true. And she'll get all he can ever spend. She has an arrangement with the banking house of Valent and Bulk. And so looks like on Shiver's end, he is now compromised. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
I really like the chapter. I reckon I'm going to give this one a 7. I love the way that it's intertwined, and there's so many parallels between the way that Monzo and Shivers are behaving. And it makes absolute sense. Like, none of them are in the wrong for what they have been through.
Yeah.
They're all righteously angry about something.
Well, Rogan's not angry.
Well, except Rogan, obviously, but
motivational.
Yeah. We need Monzo and Shivers. Like, Monzo is going after. She doesn't give a shit about Shivers because he's not a part of her revenge, and he is taking that personally.
I wouldn't say she doesn't give a shit about him, but
not in the same way that he did about her at some point.
Right, because he laid the blame on Monza. Monza can't. Now she can't even find him attractive anymore. I don't think she minds the scar. I think it's the just like how he got the scar.
It's the rage.
It's Shivers, being angry and blaming her. She can't. How can you fuck somebody?
And of course and the guilt, like you say.
Okay, Harrison, what do you think?
I think I'm gonna rate the same. I mean, that's what I was feeling as well. 7 out of 9. Same reasons you said. I really like we've already mentioned a couple times, the mirror of themselves. But something I came to realize inside of this book, and we'll touch base on it more as we near the end, which is this book in particular, out of Joe's books, is he's really good at writing characters and people who think that they are something and they're trying to get somewhere, and then they come to realize, or they don't realize, or they just become the thing they don't want to be at all. And their goals are basically flipped around. They usually realize who they are, and this book does, I think, really well. Every single character starts off in a place, and then they have a goal of who and where they want to be, and then as the book goes on, they all turn into or reveal themselves to be who they weren't wanting to be originally. And I think that's really, really clever here. And right here is for me where it really started to click that was happening. So
that's a really good perspective. I like that.
Honestly, before George said anything, I was gonna give it a 7. So I guess we got a trifecta. Naturally done, organic.
If anybody else rates this chapter otherwise, you're wrong.
Yeah.
The tribunal has spoken.
It's a good chapter. It's a good chapter because I like how when you're a first time reader, Joe slips in that little misdirection.
Yep.
You think that maybe Monza and Shivers have reconciled. Turns out, no. They fucking different people. And it's pretty descriptive. And then we get the piss fetish or like the humiliation fetish from Rogan.
Rogan is. It's quite funny that he is as well, because he's like this big manly man. And I know he loves running away and everything, but especially when you hear the voice that Stephen Pacey gives him. It's so ironic. And Harrison, weren't you saying that you think Henry Cavill should play Duke Rogan?
Oh yeah,
that's hilarious.
Is it based off of looks? Absolutely, but it'd be such a like Henry Cavill's got the acting chops to act like some sly bastard who is clever enough to be formidable, but not clever enough to be as smart as he thinks he is. And I think it'd be such a good flip on that head, rather than it being like, I don't want it to be somebody who doesn't look a certain way. Like, it's got to be somebody who looks the part and acts the part and blah 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 blah. And then it's like, piss on me. I want to feel like a baby.
Yeah. And we got, Manza staying loyal to Shivers by not having him, killed. And we got Shivers betraying Manza now by committing to killing her, thanks to Carlot's cocksucking abilities.
Oh, I don't think it's just Carlot. I think that's what he really wanted for some time. He just needed the validation.
He just needed to make that decision. He was on the fence. Deep down, he was so angry at her that he wanted to, kill her. And this gives him that out, So we'll move on to our next segment, which is Best Meme of the Week. Georgia boy, that's a you. Take it away.
So we have Schlurv58, or whatever that fucking name is. Our hero. Who, by the way, we're having a theory video, and it's with Schlurv that we recorded that video. Complete coincidence, by the way. It just happened to be Meme of the Week as well. So no nepotism here.
A likely story.
So it's just one of those old motivational quotes from like 10, 15 years ago, if you're on the internet back then. And it's just a picture of Joe Abercrombie, and it's the quote, "Have laughter for breakfast and you'll be shit and joy by lunch." But he's just taken the words laughter and joy out. It's just, have breakfast and you'll be shitting by lunch.
True words of wisdom.
Which is so stupid, but it's so funny.
What's great is the Bloody Niner, who we've talked about and had on here many times. He posted a picture of a happy pancake right below it, and then a polar bear shitting out joy from inside out.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. Love that.
Dear.
Love that.
So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Slur. I keep thinking like it's like the word slur. It's just he's a slur. So thanks for that, George. Now we'll move on to our second chapter read through, which is So Much for Nothing. We start off from the perspective of Nakomo Casca. He's with the notary and Friendly. They are looking at the silver that had been paid to them by Grand Duke Orso, who they basically fleeced. and go ahead.
Sorry, Jeff. I just want to say, I love that Joe has this obsession with money to the point where, like, every single time money is there, the character has to just go, "Oh, look, it's money that gleams with a certain light that only money does."
Joe loves some money.
I will say, none of us, I mean, maybe you guys have, I don't know. I've never seen, like, stacks of straight up, like, gold coins or something. Like, I mean, Joe must have,
no, but
right?
I want to.
Joe,
I want to.
Joe makes money sound so enticing. You're like, money.
But it's true. Like, even if you have like a handful of like pocket change, it just feels like so like weighty and like it has actual substance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though it's like, a couple of dollars, a couple of pounds, whatever, and it's just like it's just pocket change, but it feels so much better than just having however much in your bank account.
It's true.
So they are currently paying a regiment of men, a company of men, whatever. And Casca notes that sometimes men, like some of the guys are, they dress up in different clothes and come back as if they never showed, they never got the money. They complain about everything, they lie about everything just to get some more money. But First Sergeant Friendly was watching, and my man is on top of it. There is not one single dollar or coin that was basically administered out of turn.
And there never would be again. Not in that company.
And Casca complains. He goes, "Jesus, you would swear the more you give a man, the more he demands and the less happy he is. No one ever appreciates what he gets. A pox on charity." And, the notary, is like, mercenaries aren't all they used to be. And then, Casca goes, "Well, no, they're actually, it's pretty much the same. They're. When people say things aren't what they used to be, it's the rallying cry of small minds. What men really mean is that things used to be better for them because they were young and had all their hopes intact. The world is bound to look a darker place as you slide into the grave." Jesus Christ, Casca.
I know, but I love this.
That is so fucking true.
This is one of my favorite lines, though, like in the whole series, because you're right, George. It's so true. Like, you know how many old people I know that are always just like, "Oh, this was this and this is better. This and this." I mean, even just in like my short time as a full-grown adult, there are already people referencing back to 2016 and how great it was back then. Was the economy better? I mean, sure. But Jeffrey, right, exactly. You're older, right? So 2016 to you was just another fucking year. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like even people my age are like, oh, when I was young, oh, whenever I was a teenager, life was so good. And I'm like, what are you guys? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same shit. It's so sad.
Life was better when I was a kid, and not by, and no, I was gonna say not because I was gonna say I had no responsibilities, but that's not true. But I didn't have bills to pay.
Yes.
So
yes,
there's that.
Yes,
there is that. Other than that, yeah, very true. And he, because he goes, some men get better, some men get worse, but on the grand scale, he has observed no actual significant changes. We'll look at that now. And so he changed the subject. He goes, how many have we paid now? He goes, that's all Squire's company from Andicha's regiment. And Costco goes, please don't speak of that brave heart. His loss still stabs at me.
Still playing the part. I love it.
And then he asks, okay, so how many have they paid in total? And the guy's trying to like count whatever. And Friendly goes 404. And then Costco asked the notary how many people were in the 1,000 Swords, and the notary's like, wait, counting like the ancillaries, the servants, the tradesmen, and the whores. Goes, yep, counting them too, especially they're the hardest worker in the whole damn brigade. And the notary's trying to count, and then Friendly just answers. He goes 12,819. Costco just stares at him. He goes, Jesus Christ.
He's like so impressive.
I mean, that kind of goes to show like how big these kind of things are. Like a lot of fantasy kind of seems to portray armies like, oh, it's just like, these dudes, and they just go around and
kill
by themselves, and just go and kill stuff. And it's just like, no, you need cooks and blacksmiths and leather workers and just every single kind of craftsman that's just there in the camp with them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Joe does a great job of that.
Then
You're very right.
It creates this kind of like own economy, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's its own mobile economy. Yep. Good job.
And I think that's excellent. And just in those few lines, and it's never talked about again.
So as they talk, complain about how long they're going to be there, counting, paying everybody, he has to go get a refill for his flask because it's empty, and he sees Shivers walking towards him, and he goes, "Oh, how you doing? My old partner in adventure or murder, really." He goes, "You have a twinkle in your eye, literally, for the bright metal." He goes, "You look well, my friend, most well." Though he looked, in fact, a mutilated savage. Goes, happy face, happy heart. Have a smile for breakfast. You'll be shitting joy by lunch. Here you go. That's the quote.
Well, that's another coincidence. Oh my god.
And then he goes, were you in the battle? He goes, that I was. He goes, bloody was it? He goes, that it was. Some men thrive on blood. I dare say you known a few men who are that way. He goes, that I have. And then he asks about where's Monza, and she's behind him. She goes, behind you? And he goes, God's teeth, woman. You haven't lost.
I love the idea that she just like fucking snuck up on him and was like just standing there waiting, just to fuck with him.
I like this right here, this part where he said he pretended at shock to smother the sentimental welling up that always accompanied her appearance and threatened to make his voice crack with emotion. He really just, he loves her. Yes. I would say as a daughter, but obviously I think there was some notion of like he is also probably attracted to her or something like that. I mean, she's an attractive woman, whatever. He's not her dad.
No.
He's gonna have conflicting feelings.
I think it is kind of natural, but in the way that
I think that
it's kind of take a kind of a groomer aspect to it.
Yes. Okay. I think that there is.
You're right.
I think there is there's a very we get very deep inside Joe's heads. I mean, let's not play like devil's advocate here. Casca is a bad guy. Objectively, in his mind, he's fucked up. Okay, right? But he's not so fucked up, or at least he's not willing to risk his own he's smart enough, I guess, to not risk certain aspects, which is like he's not going to act on any kind of feeling like that because he knows that is foolish and doesn't make sense and is unfair to everybody. So he's not going to do that. But it doesn't mean he also doesn't have an attraction for her. Should he? No. Would a good man not have any kind of attraction for her and know how to actually separate that out? Yes, but he's not. So he is a scumbag for feeling certain ways about her. But at the same time, he's more than just that. So I don't know. It's kind of gross, but also at the same time understandable, but also not okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I love the way that you can read all of that out of like very little information.
Little, yeah.
And so yeah, aside from that, and then we get Casca, I guess, admitting that, say you forgive my theatrics. You see that I was thinking of you all along. My fondness for you is undiminished. And you go, I may swoon with gratitude, Monza says. So he goes, all right, walk with me. I have something to show you. So it's him, Friendly, Shivers, and Monza. And they're all walking. And there were, he admitted that he, got paid the Gurkish gold and everything. That's what he really wanted. There's nothing wrong with, earning as much money as possibly can. And that apparently Rogant also promised him the Grand Duchy of Viscerine, which catches Monza by complete fucking surprise. She's like, you, a duke? Yeah, because, Cellier is dead. No heirs, not even distant ones. The city is plundered. Fire, devastated by fire. The government collapsed.
And hell. He's from Viscerine, so...
Yeah. He's like, why not? And Monza goes, oh, Jesus Christ. Why would you want that? That's you hate commitments and responsibilities. He goes, yeah, but you know what? All my wanderlust has only led me to the gutter. So he is trying to. He says he's going to try to be better than the vainglorious guy he's been.
I think that's really good. I like this kind of turn for Costco.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it turns out. And so
I mean, as far as we know, he's still drinking though, isn't he? So
yeah. And so it's funny how Monza goes. He made himself a fortune, and he's gonna have one of the richest dukedoms in Syria. And Monza goes, and all you did was just sit here. And he goes, yep. And he goes, oh, by the way, I have a gift for you. And he says she asks him about it because she's suspicious, but he goes, I don't want to spoil the surprise. He tells Friendly to take him to what they found yesterday. And then Friendly, they go to like a house. They open the door. They enter, and we see a figure. He's in the corner, and he shuffles forward. He's chained by his ankles and his hands, I assume. And we see that it's Prince Foscar.
Oh. Casca, you sly dog.
Oh, boy. He's a kid still, kind of, but it's been a year, so he aged a little bit, but he got a bunch of bruises, apparently. Then he stares at Shivers. He stares at Friendly. And he goes, oh, boy. These are not men that give a prisoner a hopeful outlook, let's just say. And then he looks, and he meets Monza's eye, and he knows what's coming, and he goes, oh boy. He goes, so it's true, then you're alive. And then she goes, unlike your brother, I stabbed him through his throat and threw him out the windows. All right, unnecessary. She goes, I had mouth is poisoned, Ganmark run through with a ton of bronze, Faithful stabbed, / drowned, and hung from a water wheel, still turning on it for all I know. Gabbo's lucky. I only smashed his hands and his knees and his skull to bone meal with a hammer. But it's giving her like nausea instead of satisfaction, but she's still, saying it. She goes, of the 7 men who were in that room when they murdered Benna, there's just your father left. She takes out her sword, the Calvez. Your father and you. Oh, boy. Shivers is just leaning back against the wall, crossing his arms, smiling. Oh, boy. He's enjoying this too, I guess. And Foscar just says, I understand. And he comes forward. And then he gets closer to Monza, about a stride away, and he sinks to his knees. And he says, I'm sorry. His hands are tied behind his back, by the way. And he goes, you're fucking sorry? And he tells her, he goes, I didn't know what was going to happen. I loved Benna. Your brother was like a brother to me. I never would have wanted that for either of you. I'm sorry for my part in it. And she knew that. She knew he had no part in it. And he says, I just want to live. And she says, so did Benna. And then he goes, he just repeats it. He goes, I just want to live. And so she, do what you have to do. Conscience is an excuse. Mercy and cowardice are the same. It was time to do it. He had to die. Do it now. But she's staring at Foscar's face. His eyes just reminded him of Benna, right? When he was young, when Benna was young, before Capriel, before Sweet Pines, before they betrayed Casca, before the Thousand Swords, when they just wanted to make things grow. And then the point of the sword just drops, and she just kind of lets it. She doesn't kill Foscar. And Foscar, he closes his eyes. He takes a big, big, deep breath. He goes, thank you. Thank you. I knew you always had a heart, whatever they said. Thank you. And then Shiver's fist comes crashing into his face. Crashes into his face again. Starts choking him. So, it goes, you want to fucking live, huh? And then he just starts smashing his head over and over again on the floor. Shivers friendly counts up to 11 times before Foscar is well and truly dead.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Now, this is interesting. I find this a particular part so interesting because I feel as though if Shivers did not have that conversation with Carlotte, he would not have done this. Not because he's been made more brutal or something like that, but because he is not just trying to kill Monza. Now that he's accepted how he feels about her and what he's going to do, he wants to make her suffer. I think he saw that she didn't like it and decided against it and thought he'd take it in his own hands to make her hurt. I think that's why he did it.
Interesting. Okay. Good. I like that. When I read this part, I thought he was so bitter over what he lost. He lost Monza. He lost his eye. You know what I mean?
That's part of it.
Nobody. He should why does this kid get to live? Fuck him. We were gonna kill him. We're gonna kill him.
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah, okay,
I think that's part of it for sure. And maybe I'm wrong, but.
Yeah. And so, and then he smiles. He goes, 6 out of 7, right, Monza? All turning out just like you hoped. And she's just staring at Foscar, and she goes, "What? Why did you?" And then Shivers gets real close. He goes, "Why not?" He goes, "What we came for, isn't it? What we fought for all day, down in the mud all day. I thought you was all for never turning back. Mercy and cowardice the same, and all that hard talk you gave me. By the dead, Chief." And he smiles, and he goes, "I could almost swear you ain't half the evil bitch you pretend to be." And that's the end of that chapter. God damn.
She's only got one more to go.
Yeah, but he didn't have to murder poor Foscar.
Listen, he did what had to be done. He put the boots to that little boy. All right?
He's a piece of shit. I fucking hate Shivers.
Hey. Actually, I felt bad for Foscar too. I was like, damn, the kid didn't do anything.
He literally
did nothing.
Yeah. He literally
did nothing.
Yeah. No. All right.
Yeah. How do you rate that chapter? George, let's go first with you, since you seem to have strong opinions about this.
I like it. I think I'm gonna give this one a 7 again.
Oh, okay.
Because I like the twist. I love how Monza does relent. And it's like, well, yeah, no, you didn't actually do anything, and you were as close to almost probably the second closest person to Banner except Monza.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
And I think that probably came through at the end. Like, oh yeah, no, he might be the closest thing that she has left to Banner.
Like a little brother to watch over.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she doesn't do anything to stop Shivers. She doesn't tend to stop.
How the fuck is she gonna stop him? That man's a raging maniac right now.
Yeah.
So really, is it just Shivers doing what she wanted anyway? Even if she didn't have the
balls.
She definitely did.
The Constitution.
She definitely did not convey correctly to him what she was wanting. But let's be real. Shivers knows Monza by this point. At least her reactions and her facial expressions and things like that. Like, he knows. You know what I mean? To a certain degree. That's why he gets up close to her face.
That's what I
mean. He
like,
mocks her. He gets up and he's like, "Isn't that what you wanted, Monza? You bitch." You know.
But that's what I mean. That's just what Bennett used to do to her, but a little bit different.
Yeah, a little less aggressive. You're right, though. Yeah, he was pretty intense.
Yeah. Shivers was like, no balls. So Harrison, what do you rate it?
I reckon I'm gonna rate it a 6 out of 9 for me.
I was gonna go the same way. Yeah.
I think it's a little bit above average because that was definitely for me. I was like, oh my god, he just killed her. That's intense. Okay, that's depressing.
He killed him.
He killed him. I'm sorry. And I know. I'm sorry for misgendering. But at the same time, it's also pretty short, and it's kind of cleaning up. So it's a decisive thing. It just that's all there is in that. So.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Shivers killing Foscar, I probably would have given it a lower score because it's so short. But yeah. I mean, we get some comedy from Casca and Friendly, as usual, and then we really just have, and it's very anticlimactic. But I think Joe wrote it that way, and because there's that hope that Foscar might just live. Like, oh shit, because we all from the very start, you saw that Foscar was a good kid. Right,
yeah.
Jovial, joking around, loved Monza, loved Benna, didn't want no part of this assassination, and you're like, yeah, well, not Foscar. Don't. Why'd you include Foscar in your hit list? It's her fault. If she never would have included Foscar in the hit list, Shivers wouldn't have known.
Yeah, that's true.
So I blame Monza anyway. I blame all women. You know me. It's my modus operandi.
Nice.
That is a joke. I am just pretending to be a character. Anyway, so yeah, gave it a 6. Harrison, you giving it a 6. George gave it a 7, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we shall move on to our next segment, which is our character spot. And who else can we highlight? But dear young Prince Foscar.
Taken too young.
Taken too young.
Literally. Bro's probably like 20 years old.
And what a violent death, too.
Foscar might be the most innocent character in the entirety of Joe Abercrombie's works.
He is very innocent. I wouldn't say maybe he is like actually an actual character. Yeah, maybe you're right about that.
Apart from the whole, living in luxury because your granddad's a tyrant, whatever.
Yeah, but he didn't choose that either, did he? Right?
No, he didn't choose that.
No.
He was born into it, molded by it. Oh, Prince Foscar. What can we say about you? We don't really know that much about you. We just know that you're a young kid. You weren't necessarily too fond of Ario, but you were a good kid. You were a good son, dutiful, and you
refused to do a murder.
Yep, refused to partake in a murder, and got murdered for it anyway. I mean, Jesus, you got your head smashed 11 times on stone. And he's a kid too, so he's got to be like in his teens, right? Shivers had no problem just murdering that poor boy. Oh,
no hesitation. And that what makes Shivers a bad person only for killing him, but the fact that he wasn't even killing him to because he thought it was the right thing to do. He just did it to either satisfy his own urges or hurt Monza. It's
yikes.
That makes it
yikes. Do you guys want to say anything else about Foscar?
I think he's in a better place though.
Yeah.
I don't know. The place he's at right now.
Well, I hope he's in a better place anyway. It's better than living in Styria.
I think living a life of luxury, I think that was the better place. Fuck. Oh, man. All right. Well, Prince Foscar, we honor ye. We hardly knew ye. We miss ye. And now,
God forbid there ever be such an innocent Joe Abercrombie character ever again.
Yeah, one to ever live long to and die of natural causes.
It's just like Forley the weakest all over again.
Oh God, Forley. Oh. So we'll move on to our final segment, which is our third and final chapter read through, and this is Shifting Sands. And this is the last chapter before we get to the next part. And isn't it perfect that we get back to the perspective of our boy, our king, the poisoner, Castor Morveer. Dun dun dun.
I am the Lord of Poisons.
And he has made it all the way to Talons. He is in Duke Orso's chambers. Audience chamber, and the Grand Duke is flanked by plump, ruddy-faced old fella. Don't know who that is, and by somebody else that we know to be Yoru Sulfur. But Morveer sees him as a curly-headed man. He feels like he's seen him before, but can't place him. And so the only other person besides Morveer and these three is somebody in the middle of the chamber who is on one knee and he is sweating. Apparently, this is the ambassador from the High King of the Union. And the Orso goes, and what help does my son-in-law send? And the ambassador goes, he sends his earnest regrets.
Yay.
He goes, but no soldiers. What would he have me do? Shoot his regrets at my enemies? And he goes, look, all his armies are committed in the northern wars, which is interesting, and in a revolt in the city of Rostad. And the nobles are reluctant. The peasantry are restless. The merchants... and he goes, yeah, the merchants are behind on their payments. I see. He goes, if excuses were soldiers, he would have sent a mighty throng indeed. He goes, he is beset by troubles. And Orso goes, he's beset by troubles? Huh? Him? What about me? Are his sons ruined? Are his soldiers butchered? Are his hopes all in ruins? And the ambassador goes, His Excellency, Your Excellency, he is spread thin. His regrets have no end, but his help has no beginning. Orso finishes. He goes, High King of the Union indeed. Fine talker and a goodly smile when the sun is up, but when the clouds come in, don't look for shelter, huh? My intervention on his behalf was timely enough when the Gurkish horde clamored at his gates, but now I need his help, huh? Okay, forgive me, father. I am spread thin. He tells him to get out of my sight before he has his tongue. He says, I see the cripple. Tell the cripple that I see his hand in this. I will whip the price from his twisted hide. I will have my revenge. That ambassador got out of there with the quickness. He was, fuck this.
I love it. I love it to see it all tie back to Gluckter as well.
Yeah. And then Orso is now calm, and he goes, who's that sulking at the back of the chamber? And it did not reassure Morveer whatsoever. And he goes, gulp. And he's thinking about the time when he was to account for the dead birds at the orphanage or something like that. So he makes his most sycophantic...
What a creepy kid.
What a creepy kid for sure. He bows and he goes, the Chamberlain says, this is one Castor Morveer, Your Excellency. And Orso goes, and what manner of man is he? And he goes, a poisoner. And then Morveer has to correct himself. He goes, Master Poisoner. And he goes, he could be as obsequious as the next man when it was required, but he flatly insisted on his proper title. Had he not earned it? And Orso goes, Master, and what great notables have you poisoned to earn the prefix? And he goes, look, it's a long-ass list, but I'll start. Grand Duchess Cephaline of Austria, Count Bernardi of Vetria, and both his sons, though their boats subsequently sank and they were never found. Ghassan Maz, satrap of Kadir, and then when further problem presented themselves, his successor, Souvanyin Sol, old Lord Isher of Midderland, he was one of mine. Prince Amrit, who would have been heir to the throne of Muris. And Orso goes, I thought he died of natural causes. And he goes, what could be more natural for a powerful man than a dose of leper flower administered in the ear by a dangling thread? Then Admiral Brandt, late of the Muresian fleet, his wife, cabin-born, although, he was an accident.
I do want to notate 2 of these here. He says, we know about the Grand Duchess Cephaline, right? Because of Casca and all of that interaction. He also says, Gaston Maz, satrap of Kadir. Kadir was like the last region conquered by the Gurkish before they started doing some wars with the Union. So I bet he was paid some hefty money for that. It sounds like maybe one of his first, so it would have been a long time ago too. And that fits with the timeline too. So that's pretty interesting to me. And so is obviously Old Lord Isher, which was recent because Old Lord Isher was still alive during the time of, the series.
Yeah, true.
And that might have even been Old Sticks himself.
Yep, just hired him on.
And he goes, the list is very long, distinguished, and dead. With your permission, I will add only the most recent name to it. And he goes, Ursula's like, yeah. And he goes, 1, Malthus, head of the Westport office of the banking house of Valentin Balk.
Say what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Duke was like, who was your employer for that last one? And Morphy goes, I make it a point of professionalism never to mention the names of my employers, but I believe these are exceptional circumstances. I was hired by none other than Monscato Mercado, the butcher of Capril. And then he couldn't resist a flourish. He goes, I believe you are acquainted. And Orso goes, what? And then Morvier goes, whoops, I might have messed up, because now the Duke's guards, they kind of they're following Orso's mood. They're stirring a little bit, and Morvier's like, ruh-roh.
Fucking idiot.
And so then Orso goes, so you infiltrated the offices of Valentin Balk in Westport, huh? And Morvier goes, indeed. And then he glanced at the guy in the curly hair, which we know is Yoru. He goes, I congratulate you on the achievement, though it has been the cause of some considerable discomfort to me and my associates. And he goes, explain why I should not have you killed for it. And he tried to chuckle, but it died a slow death in the chilly vastness of He goes, I had no notion, of course, that you were in any way to be discomfited, really. None. It was all due to a regrettable failing, a willful oversight, deliberate dishonesty, a lie even, on the part of my cursed assistant that I took the job in the first place. I never should have trusted that greedy bitch. And then he realized he's not doing himself any favors by blaming the dead. And so he goes, I was but the tool, Your Excellency, merely the weapon, a weapon I now offer for your own hand to wield as you see fit.
He's such a sycophant.
He bows again. Orso goes, you seek a new employer? He goes, Mercado proved as treacherous towards me as she did towards your illustrious lordship. The woman is a snake indeed, twisting, poisonous, and scaly. He finished lamely. He goes, I was lucky to escape her toxic clutches with my life, and I now seek redress. I am prepared to seek it most earnestly and will not be denied. He goes, the man with the curly hair says redress will be a fine thing for us all. News of Mercado's survival spreads through Talons like wildfire. Papers bearing her face on every wall. They say you stabbed her through the heart, but she lived, Your Excellency. Orso goes, if I had stabbed her, I would never aim for her heart. Without doubt, her least vulnerable organ. Man, they're just roasting Monza right now.
I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm. And then the guy, the curly hair, Yoru, he says, they say you burned her, drowned her, cut her into quarters, and tossed them from your balcony, but that she was stitched back together and lived again. They say she killed 200 men at the fords of the Solva.
I just want to say that's Rasputin, right?
That's
basically
that's gotta be.
Yeah, it's basically the idea too that basically Monza's reputation has. I think it's so clever how, to the nobility of Styria, everyone hates Monza, but to the peasantry, she is, as they said early on, one of their own. She is a girl who grew up on a farm, who became the most powerful woman in Styria at a certain time, and they're all scared of her and think she's insanely powerful and all of that. I just think that's such a cool aspect that is not touched upon a lot. And she, I would be pretty terrified. Yep. Of course, there's gonna be stories about her.
Yeah,
absolutely. And, this is the kind of thing that spawns fairy tales about vampires.
Yeah. Yeah, and Orso sees right through it, right? He knows this is like Rogan's theatrics. He goes, that motherfucker, he shouldn't be a ruler of men. He's an author of cheap fantasies. He goes, next you will hear that Mercado has sprouted wings and given birth to the second coming of Eus. And apparently they're now, the papers are saying that she's been sent to deliver Syria from his tyranny. And from Orso's tyranny. He goes, oh, tyrant now, huh? How quickly the winds shift. And they say she cannot be killed, apparently. And he goes, do they indeed? What do you say, poisoner? And Morvir goes, Your Excellency, I have fashioned a successful career upon the principle that there is nothing that lives that cannot be deprived of life. And so he goes, okay, do you care to prove it? And I humbly entreat only the opportunity. Right? And then Orso goes, and so Morvir is smiling, right? And then Orso goes, okay, here it is. Kill Monscaro Mercado. Kill Nocomo Casca. Kill Countess Cotarda of Afoya. Kill Duke Lerosio of Peranti. Kill First Citizen Patine of Nicante. Kill Chancellor Sartorius of Sapani. Kill Grand Duke Rogant before he can be crowned. Perhaps I will not have Syria, but I will have revenge. And Morvir was smiling when the list started. By the end, he was not smiling unless one counted the fixed rictus he maintained upon his trembling face only by the greatest of efforts. It appeared his bold gambit had spectacularly over-succeeded. Oh, he was forcibly reminded of the time where he wanted to discomfort 4 of his tormentors at the orphanage by putting some like Lancome salts in the water, which had ended, of course, with the untimely deaths of all of the establishment staff and most of the children too.
He's got so many fucking problems.
Morvir is just the definition of too smart for his own good.
Talks too much.
He's very high intelligence, very low wisdom.
He goes, Your Excellency, that is a significant quantity of work. And he goes, yep, it is. Some nice little names for your list, huh? And the rewards will be equally significant, right, Master Sulfur? And Sulfur goes, mm-hmm. Yeah, see, as you can see, I represent the banking house of Valentin Bulk. And Morvir goes, now I remember him. He had seen him talking to Malthus before they poisoned Malthus. He goes, I didn't really have the slightest notion you understand. And here he goes, how he wished now that he had not killed Day. Then he could have noisily denounced her as the culprit. I
love that Day was right. Day was right. She was like, yeah, I'm going to be the scapegoat. And she absolutely would have been.
Well, maybe he's saying that now because she tried to kill him.
I mean,
but if the whole thing had played out the exact same, but Day was alive, she would have definitely got blamed.
He even says it. If Day was alive, if only Day was alive, he could have blamed her.
He goes, apparently, look, it seems that Master Sulfur was not seeking scapegoats yet. I can only imagine that if he wasn't looking for someone to blame, I wonder how Morvir would have done it. But he'd be like, she did it.
Yeah. It was all of my cursed assistants.
Yes, he absolutely would have said that.
Yeah, but then Sulfur goes, but you were just the weapon, as you say. If you can cut as sharply on our behalf, you have nothing to worry about. And besides, Malthus was a terrible bore. Shall we say, if you are successful, the sum of $1 million scales? Morvir's like, 1 million? And Orso goes, yeah, there's nothing that lives that cannot be deprived of life. Now get about it. Oh boy. And now we shift perspectives. We cut over to Shank's perspective. And he's in Afoya right now. And he's with a homeless man, a beggar. And he finds a house. He's looking for a certain house. He's like, okay, great. Thanks. This is the house. Okay. Never, ever, ever come back here. Ruh-roh. And so he goes up to he looks at the house. He looks in the window. And he sees kids, 2 girls and a boy with orange hair, and they're playing on a wooden horse. And He goes, innocent, uninformed, full of possibilities before they began to make their choices. And real quick, briefly, he does talk about in his mind's eye in the beginning that he's from Afoya, I believe. That he had studied. Oh no, I'm sorry. He had studied here as a young man before he had ever knelt to his master, and before he swore never to kneel again. So that's interesting. He had fallen in love with a woman too rich, too old, and too beautiful for him, and been made a fool of. So he has bad memories here for sure. And he's looking at the kids, and then we hear someone say, well, what do we have here? And he looks up, and someone's crouching above him, a low roof of the shed, and a line of sight from a window across the way, cutting hard down her face. Strip of spiky red hair, red eyebrow.
Wait a minute.
Narrowed eye.
I know who this is. Jeffrey.
Freckled skin. A chain hung gleaming down from one fist, cross a sharpened metal, swinging gently on the end of it. Dun dun dun. This is Shiloh Vatari, folks.
How could it be?
And Shank goes, it seems you have the better of me. And so she slides from the wall. And she walks towards him. Uh-oh. He breathes in slow. He sees every detail of her face. He can hear her heart beating. Oh, boy. Thump, thump, thump. We know where this is going. This is his bullet time before he kills somebody.
Yep.
And then they make out.
Oh. They're like...
They make out.
I mean, that's...
Oh. And then she goes, it's been a while, Cass. He goes, I know.
First name
she goes,
basis?
too long. Yeah, look at that. Too long. I know. They miss you. And he goes, can I? And she goes, you know you can. And she leads him into the door. And then he goes, it's me. And the kids are like, oh, wow, look at that. And he's he's terrified. Daddy. He's terrified of them. And then he gives them a carved dog. And I guess he gives it to the one named Cass. And then he gives a bird to Kande, and one to T. And he gives the cat, to T.
Yep.
And then she goes, no one calls me that anymore. Oh. And he goes, I'm sorry, it's been so long. And I was like, oh, Dios mío. And then they kind of, Shiloh tells him to go to bed now. He'll be here tomorrow, won't you, Cass? And he goes, yes.
Will he though?
She stares him down, and she goes, okay, so to bed. And then he goes, look, they got so big. And he goes, yep, that's what they do. Why are you here? And he goes, can I guess he's going to say like, can he just stay or something like that? But she goes, look, you know you can, and you know you haven't. So why are you here? And then she sees Mercado's ring on Shank's finger, and she goes, uh-oh, that's Mercado's ring. He goes, yep, I nearly caught her in Paranti. That's where she lost it. And she's like, call her, why? And she says, she has become involved in my revenge. So this is interesting.
You got a whole new aspect going on here now.
Mm-hmm. And she goes, you and your revenge, did you ever think you might be happier for getting it? And he just basically says no. He goes, a rock might be happier if it was a bird and could fly from the earth and be free, but a rock is not a bird. And he asks her, were you working for Mercado? He goes, yeah, so. And he asks her where she is. And she goes, that's what you came here for? And he goes, that and them, the kids, he means, and you. And she smiles. And I think this might be the first time we truly see Shiloh smile, right?
Yeah.
She goes... Cass, for such a clever bastard, you're a stupid bastard. You always look for the wrong things in all the wrong places. Mercado's in Austria with Rogant. She fought in the battle there, and she's on her way back to Talons. So then he goes, and I will follow them back to Talons. He says, I could have just stayed there these past few weeks and just waited for her. He goes, that's what happens when you're always chasing things. It works better if you wait for what you want to come to you. And he goes, I was sure you would have found another man by now. She goes, I found a couple, but they didn't stick. And she holds out her hand. She goes, you ready to hum? And he says, always. And he takes her hand, and they go up the stairs. And that's the end of the chapter. Boys, how do you rate that chapter?
I think Joe does such a good job of showing us this really soft side to a character that has literally done nothing else but be a badass and murder people.
brutally murder. I mean,
and connecting us to a character that we already know has a soft side.
Yeah.
And then also her kids as well, which is also, a big point in the third book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's really clever. And, Shank just suddenly become, maybe he's a good guy. He eats people, but, I'd vote for him.
But he's got kids. He must be good.
He makes some little wooden carvings and stuff. It's sweet.
It's nice. It's very sweet. Yeah. What do you rate the chapter on a whole?
I think
it's going to be a 7 again.
Go ahead.
George? That's it. For all the reasons I've just said.
Okay, fair enough.
It's going to be a 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm going to rate it a 4. I think it's really funny with the Morbius stuff as always, and I think it mixes things up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. It's more like I feel like there's more expanding on what's there, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't. I just don't enjoy it as much as I think George obviously does.
Yeah,
I do like. I think this is like Morbius chapter as well.
Yeah. I mean, the whole Morbius thing, it was hilarious. I was crying when I was reading this. I guess I'll give it a 6. It kind of like, it's fun. It's like the Morbius stuff is what really elevates it for me.
Yeah.
But doesn't really expand. Like you said, Harrison, it's kind of just there.
Yeah.
Just expands a little bit. We just see that Morbius is now tasked with killing everybody in the world, apparently. Oh, she was hilarious. And then we get Shanked being a softie. Look at him. And Shiloh being a softie. Vitari, we never see that. So I'll give it a 6. Alrighty. So that's going to be the end of this episode. Thanks for everybody. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover Return of the Native and The Lion's Skin.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website at circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
That is a significant quantity of murder.